So I'm going to talk about a Joppa's stream summary again from yesterday. We're going to go over my notes, and then if you guys want to, we can discuss these. But I'm just going to go straight through them, and there's a lot to talk about. My brain has not been working very well with trying to talk about all this stuff, so we can discuss them after I go over them. But I want to discuss them or just go over the notes, put them out on YouTube. So PvP discussion from yesterday on Joppa stream is about a 3.5 hour stream. So we talked about the PvP discussion. Joppa's quotes from that are, quote, a lot of people want PvP, quote, already built, so it's already into the game. And another quote is, no game like this has PvP. So those are the three main reasons that he put out of why they want to do PvP. Level of engagement on PvP is plus or minus 5 levels, starting at level 5. But you cannot kill anybody under level 5. So once you hit level 5, you can kill other level 5 players up to level 10. If you are level 10, you can kill players down to level 5 up to level 15. And that's basically how it works. Your equipment items cannot be looted off of you. So anything here on this side cannot be looted off of you. These things down here can be looted, not your bags, however. So bags always stay, but anything inside of your bags can be looted unless it is no trade. So that's the only time that you cannot loot something. Let's see. Loot time will be the same as PvE. So right now there's about a 7-minute whenever you kill something. It's like 7 minutes before the loot, or 7 minutes before the NPC disappears, about 4 minutes before anyone can loot it. So that's basically how it's going to work. It's going to be the same as PvE. In combat state will be disabled after 10 seconds of no PvP. So if you are in a fight with an NPC, you still have to run away from it. But if you're in a fight with another player, that combat will end after 10 seconds of not taking PvP damage. So they're doing that to, basically get people out of PvP, and you cannot lock someone into PvP or in combat permanently unless you continue to do damage to them. Players in groups or guilds will be a defensive target and cannot PvP each other. So you're going to want to group up with your friends, be in a guild with your friends so you can not PvP each other. And then after PvP death, so after you die in PvP, you'll have a 90-second of PvP immunity to kind of give you a chance to get back into stuff. Let's see. One server, no shards, max capacity of 500 players. If it's got max capacity, you will have to wait for people to leave the server before you'll be able to join. So there will be some sort of kind of queue situation going on with that. Awareness and concealment will work. So if you are a rogue and you're trying to hide from other players, you're going to want higher concealment, and they are going to want higher awareness to be able to see you. Your higher concealment will allow them to not see you. So if you are, let's say, lower level than another player, but you have very high concealment plus concealment items, you will be able to hide from that higher level player much easier. There is a PvP scaling that is happening. He talked about that briefly, and that's going to change depending on the target. So if the damage that is done when you are in PvP, if I were to damage another player, that player, whatever player I am targeting, will take 60% of the normal damage I would do in PvE. So it's 60% less, or 60% of the damage. So 40% less than I would do in PvE combat. That changes when you get into healing. Healing is going to work a little bit differently. I'll try to explain it the best I can, but it's a little bit weird and wonky. If you want to check this out, it's around the 30-ish minute mark, something around there. It's where he talks about the PvP scaling. But basically players with the highest threat. So if you are a healer and your highest threat is on an NPC, you'll have normal healing on everyone that you heal. But if your highest threat is on a player, you will have 40% reduction, I believe, in your healing. So you'll be doing 40% less healing, or 60, or something along those lines. You're going to be doing way less healing, okay? That's pretty much what you need to know. Now, how you're going to be able to kind of use that, or tanks are going to be able to use that, they're going to be able to use a taunt to taunt you and then gain threat with you. And if they do that, your healing will drop once their threat is higher than the enemy threat to you. That's basically how it's going to work. I think it sounds really wonky and crazy, but maybe, we'll be able to figure out how that works for anybody that plays PvP. There will be 0 safe havens. No safe havens anywhere in PvP. You can kill someone at the bank. You can kill them anywhere in town. You can kill them out in the world. You can kill them literally anywhere. Guards will not protect you. There's no place in the game that is going to be safe from PvP. So always be on your guard when you log into the game. You might want to log out in very safe places that nobody knows about, little nooks and crannies. At the 41-minute mark, someone asked a very important question. What happens if someone above or below level of engagement, tries to help out? This specifically came up because let's say you have a level 40 healer and you're the highest level on the server. There is no other player that is within 5 levels of you. You could theoretically run around and just heal your friends that, let's say, are level 25 while they're engaged in PvP combat. You never go into PvP combat because you are more than 5 levels ahead of somebody, and basically you're just a pocket healer helping these people out. Gives you a huge advantage in that case. They are looking at how to fix that. No clue how they're going to fix that, because one of the ways that they could fix it is if a level 40 healer heals a lower level player, they could flag into the PvP, which would allow the other player to kill them. But at this point, they're way higher, so that would just basically allow higher level players to jump into lower level PvP fights, which would give them a very, very big advantage, and they don't want to have that. So anyway, how they're going to fix that, nobody knows. Joppa they are still thinking through that process, and we'll be watching it. At around the 42-minute mark, questions started to derail the conversation away from PvP. People were just like, basically, we don't care about PvP. That's effectively what was going on in the chat. And it started to derail. But it kind of went a little bit longer for another 15 or 20 minutes. And the final question of PvP was, what is the win for Visionary Realms with releasing PvP? And I'm not even going to try to sum up Joppa's words on that. I'm just going to show you what he said on that, because I don't even know where to begin. So we're going to listen to that real quickly. Here you go. Whoop. Hang on. I make that bigger, and here you go.
Contending over, there's not, a sense for a guild to finally get to a point where they can rule, and that feels worthy and worthwhile. Like, those are things that we need to understand based on what's breaking down in our PvE situation. So again, like I said, it's kind of hard to kind of put it all into terms or like shapes that you all can easily see. But it's there. So anyway,
that's kind of what he said about that. Basically, the short version of that is they whoop, let me turn that down a little bit. They want a good PvE game so that the PvP works, but they need data for PvP to make a good PvE game, is effectively what he said. I think that's around the 59, I guess the hour, 3-minute mark, somewhere around there. But the question was kind of asked at the 59-minute mark. Anyway, go back if you want to find out what his response to that is. That's at the time that you'll be able to find that. At the hour, 9-minute mark, XP changes are possibly coming. High-level players, or once you get into high level 30 plus, XP slows down considerably, and people are complaining about that. They're looking at doing some XP changes. No idea what those changes will be. At the hour 17-minute mark, they go back into continue their playthrough of Halnir Cave. So that is the idea. Ooh, Snick, the Tidemancer just spawned, so we're going to be killing that here in a second. But they go back into Halnir Cave with Ronick, Fuso, level 16 group this time instead of a level 13 group, which they went into last time. They did talk about the experience difference during this time. They said that the experience difference between a dark blue mob and a light blue mob, they thought was 15%, but then they actually tested it. Now, you do need to note that this was for the dev build. This is not for a live server. So if you have different numbers, then live servers might be different right now. But They thought it was 15%. In actuality, with testing, it was 33% less when you go from a dark blue mob down to a light blue mob. So you need to gauge whether you can kill light blue mobs 33% faster to make up for the difference in XP. But that was currently in the dev build. So there is that. Minute or hour 33 minute mark, PvP will always be their focus, is basically what he said, kind of going back to that previous question. But PvP will always be their focus, and PvE will always be their focus. It's a PvP centric game, that kind of thing. He talks about it a little bit more. So yeah, those kind of go together. The goal of the playthrough of Ronik, Fuso, and Joppa all playing together, the goal of that is to kind of show that you can play this game with fewer than a full group. I personally feel like that has failed in their experiment, but you can go back and kind of watch and see what you think. But that is my general take from this. I felt like, how I can say this without coming off as, mean towards Joppa. I felt like he was very defensive when people were coming up with their reasonings why they don't like Chevron mobs. The time to kill was very slow. This is what people in the chat were saying. The time to kill on a particular mob could have been 30 seconds up to over 2 minutes. They had multiple wipes with 3 players. Of course, they only had a paladin, cleric, and a necromancer. So that was one of the things that Joppa kept saying, is it wasn't a perfectly balanced, perfect trio group setup. They could have done better with that. They also, Ronik isn't versed in playing the paladin. He doesn't know the class very well. Joppa didn't seem to know the cleric very well. So they were kind of almost a brand new group of a brand new trio going into this. So that was kind of the discussion that was being had. The furthest they did get was down to the bridge. Right just before the bridge is where the farthest they got into it. They never actually made it to a named, and they made about 10% XP per hour overall during the entire course of their 2-ish hours of playthrough. That includes the 3 deaths that they had. So that's where we are with that situation. All of that said, I think that the Chevron mobs do need to be looked at and taken out and adjusted, which looks like they are doing in today's patch. So we'll look at that very quickly since it kind of pertains to this. But they talked about right here. So the class's technique buffs no longer have caster melee versions. And then these abilities have been switched to their counterparts, etc., and the slow effects. So they're starting to make some tiered debuff changes to the different classes. So we're going to start seeing some of those changes happening very, very soon. So that's pretty much it for the Joppa stream summary. And yeah, that's where we are.